So as I said before, that your child is imprinting and imitating your paralanguage. So you need to be very sensible and wise in it. So you need to keep your posture like that. You need to keep expressions like that, especially if you are a therapist. So you have to be mindful, being a parent, being a therapist, or educator for your child. So because your entire conduct is very demonstrative to the child. That's why I'm saying tangential teaching, imitation, imprinting. This is all, just I'm using some technical words so that you get these steps. So be mindful. So tangential teaching, learning, imprinting, imitations, because your child is watching you, observing you and absorbing you. So this is the way they are going to catch the language, catch the behavior, because behavior is again a message. Behavior is just secondary to your language. Vocal play. Now vocal play also helps in that automaticity. Something had fallen, your child used some words, that is his automaticity. So this vocal play also helps in automaticity, and automaticity can help in vocal play. So like we had used that example, टूट गया, गिर गया, and then you said अब हम इसको उठा के वहाँ रखेंगे. You were rewarding the automaticity. You're going into the vocal play. So if you have anything, if you have an apple in your hand, if your child says apple, say red, then say juicy, fruit, basket, fresh, cut, knife, plate. Don't worry about your child framing the words into a syntax. Let him explore. Don't hurry up with the language building. Or then you can move to another, like you were talking about apple, you said red, juicy, fruit, basket, fresh, eat, cut, knife, plate. Go to orange, then you said okay, another red fruit, cherry, another red fruit, watermelon. So this will also help in building the word spurt. Like there is pubertal spurt, growth in the height and other bodily changes, there is also word spurt, and which normally takes place around 7 to 9 years for kids. That's how the vocabulary bank builds. It takes for everybody, be it a child with additional need, be it a child without an additional need. So vocal play is very important, because vocal play is going to help in automaticity. Automaticity is the immediate reaction, what that has to be evaluated and that has to be seen. Every child has it. If you're not happy with the child, you give a child a reaction, their emotional burst out is there. So don't believe that there's no automaticity. Then associative learning and incidental teaching. This we have been doing lot throughout our life, but we don't realize it. Be it as a teacher in school, be it as a parent. You make lot of crafts, you do lot of life skills, you do lot of other activities, you do lot of motor planning, how to walk on these pile of bricks or steppers. So use words in that. Okay, you're going to put this leg forward, then other leg forward, like that. So that is associative learning. The child is experiencing it, associating it, and he's learning. And sometimes it is incidental. Through the incidents it happens. Like if you're doing any kind of fireless cooking with the child is learning fireless cooking, he is grabbing the language as well. Mixing, stirring, pouring, sprinkling. So you have to be having that kind of vocabulary bank with you when you're doing these activities. When you make simple crafts, explain the relevance of those crafts. Do it around some important days, festivals. Again, that is going to build up the motor planning, problem solving. Incidental teaching, it would be the child is going to learn the consequence of that thing. Why are we doing it? So remember, hearing, listening and decoding. So whatever we talked, somewhere or the other, all these three things are coming into action. Hearing is just a physical process. I'm hearing this sound which is playing in the background. I'm not focusing on it. Listening is, if I focus, okay, this is going really smooth and really slow. So I'm penetrating it into my body. Decoding is, I'm making a meaning out of it. I'm understanding it. I'm perceiving it. I am processing it. I'm comprehending it. So I'm using lot of words so that you comprehend it well. So I hear, listen and decode. So sometimes the child only hear, Give them time, give them 10 seconds to give you an answer. Let them hear, let them listen, and let them decode. Track it. If your child can only listen up to a thing, is your child actually decoding it? So that is important. So then you plan with the language session of your child. Don't be in a hurry at all. Next is very important, which most of the therapists would be familiar with, which we do with adults, which we do with children. We have been doing it for learning any skill in our life, that is backward changing. So we do a lot of this in our therapy. So this can be done by any new skill you want to teach. We go for the backward chaining. So you take one task and you break it into 4 or 5 steps or 3 steps. So we are going to work on the final step first, not on the first step. So when you go to the final step, you are actually working on all the steps. So start with that last step. Like if there are 4 steps, start with step number 4. So you do all the steps in one step in that step 4. This is again for giving the child a positive feedback, giving a praise, that for building up a motivation. If you make the language learning or language catching a motivation for your child, that motivation after few days is going to become a habit and you will see the changes. So mostly this backward chaining is being done with our activities of dressing or life skills or play or outdoor, but this can be done with language. I have experienced it and I've started modifying the principle of backward chaining little bit in language. Like if you want your child to identify what dance is and you want him to say that I want to dance, he says I want to dance one day. So you first describe the action, like this is the dance, show him that this is a dance, then you dance with the child, then you perform with the child and let the child do the dance. And when the child is complete, it's a slow process, it's a gradual process. That's why I said don't be in a hurry when it comes to language. So when he completely recognizes, okay, this is what we call as dance, then you frame the entire thing. I want to dance. So this is again a kind of backward chaining that we put into language. And you can do it with any kind of thing, any concept that you want. If you want your child to do waiting somewhere, if you want the child to do cleaning somewhere. So first define that particular thing. Let the child perform it. Go to the final step, the main thing first. In that main thing only, all the steps would be covered. So that's why we call it as backward chaining, I say. So this is how it is being done. And then we can use lot of visual cues. Go for a pre-arranged signal so the child understands, okay, he has to use a full sentence here, which can be like this. So he understands, okay, I have to use a full sentence. That means just saying dance won't make my teacher or my parent understand that I want to do dance. So use these pre-arranged signals. Then the child will immediately say, or will get into the practice of saying, will be motivated to say, I want to dance. So these are really, really important. The pre-arranged signals with your fingers, this which we commonly use. So you actually, the main thing is that you have to describe everything for your child. So as I said before, so the main thing is, instead of always putting a question, you have to describe everything around in his environment first. Give him that storage, that vocabulary first, instead of evaluating him if he knows this or not. He doesn't know. This is the way we had taken language from people around us. So actually describe everything, label everything. This is a chair, that is a dustbin. We switch on lights, we switch off lights. How you want to conceptualize this, that's on your own creativity and your own innovation. So the child has to have all of ample data. Then only he will be able to answer the questions that you put in. Our approach is always From the beginning, my child should speak full sentences and should answer every question. That's the wrong approach. That's why I said I'm going to highlight the errors. So now, when your child has been given the entire data collected, stored in his memory bank, now you come for the questions. Now, there's also a style to ask questions. There's a category of questions. There is a domain of different set of questions. When you come to questions, they are like leading questions, which are usually close-ended questions, which is like, will you drink water? So you're already leading the child to the answer. So start with these. Will you drink water? Yes. No, whatever is the reply. Then you go for the non-leading questions. How are you today? How are you feeling today? How did you pack that? How did you eat that? How did you pack your bag? How did you clean the cupboard? Define this. Tell me about this. These are non-leading questions. You have just put a question. It's an open-ended questions. And now if the child has gained that kind of ability, you've been doing it for quite long, giving the labeling around you, all the environmental factors, they have been labeled, whatever was around the child. If he's been into this kind of motivation and habit, he will be able to answer non-leading questions. Then later you go for more probing questions where you have to ask more information. So these can be open also, these can be closed also. Again, you have to match it up to the age appropriate skills of language cognition. Then is basically these probing questions are going to help in reasoning. They'll work more on the working memory. So remember about this way of asking questions. Then is reflective questions, giving them situation. What will happen if I do this? What will happen if you do this? So these are going to come. So I'm just giving you a hint. I will be coming up with another conclave which will be having more detail about these questions. Right now my priority is to make you understand how you use these strategies and where you're going wrong in terms of letting your child catch language, because you're teaching your child language, you're not letting them catch or grab. Then one thing I would like to say, loaded questions. Loaded questions is which is already having a judgment. Have you always been so crazy? Have you always been so sleepy? So again, when there is no affirmation in the questions, the child, again their body language will change. So don't do that in the sessions. So loaded questions should be according to the behavior concern of the child. So that has to be kept in mind. So leading, non-leading, probing, reflective questions. Probing are asking more of details. Reflecting are what would happen. Loaded are with judgment. Have you always been this sleepy or crazy? Then leading and non-leading are simple close-ended questions. Begin with these first so they also understand the concept of when to say yes, express their likes or dislikes. Non-leading are open-ended. Let it come gradually. So once you have given the entire data to the child about the environment, about their life, they will be able to tell you about, answer your non-leading questions, that is the open questions. Now this is the last bit, which is very important. If you're a parent who's listening to this, if you're a therapist, if you're an educator, if you're anybody who has a concern for your child, be it a special need child, be it an additional need child, or be it any child who is facing any trouble of learning something, or if they have their own style of learning, these are the few tips which I would like to share, which you can employ in your interaction with children, because this will help you somewhere. It's always important to use, wherever you do, it's your child's room, wherever you do your child's session, it has to be a very calm, very welcoming place. So try putting blue colors with the props that you use, or the writing that you do, or the table that you use. Colors like blue and purple, they are going to impact on the mental stability and relaxations. So that is going to open the doors for more learning. If the child is very calm, not anxious, that is going to there. If you want your child to be very quick with problem solving, this is all the concept of color therapy. So if you want them to be very innovative, very expressive, very verbal, try putting yellows, oranges. That will give you more energy, make your child more energetic, more enthusiastic about the task you have taken for him or you're taking in hand. So next would be the pacifying behaviors. This is again a part of body language which we have already discussed. Whenever you're doing any activity with your child or even with anybody, it doesn't have to be a child, it can be an adolescent also, whatever task you're giving to a person, watch what pacifying behaviors they are indulging in. If you immediately see the person gulping, touching the suprasternal notch, rubbing over the thighs, going in a cross pose, they're trying to save themselves. Maybe your energy that time is not very welcoming for them, they are not feeling very comfortable. So start noting for these signs, start noting for these pacifying behaviors. If they are indulging too much of these pacifying behaviors, gulping, hiding the vision, rubbing the thigh, touching the suprasternal notch, so that means they are not liking what you're doing. And that's very important in language because you want them to catch language. So it can be done with any fine motor or gross motor or any sensory integration session as well, but watch for these signs. Also look, when you're interacting with the child, are they at ease or are they at stress? So rapport building is very important. So start mirroring what your child does. If he is doing start mirroring. If he is doing, start mirroring the behaviors. Obviously the behavior has to be little expected, but let it make the situation little welcoming for the child. Don't act like a teacher on the child, or if you're a parent, don't act like somebody who's commanding the child. Start mirroring the child, become playful. So this will help in rapport building, and this is going to make the child very comfortable. And you will also notice that some kids who don't like to be so conversant, who have a better ability with language, they will become more friendly with you. So this is just a suggestion that I'm putting forward because I have personally experienced. Start mirroring your child. And instead of again and again pointing the child, maybe the child finds it very offensive, start using your own symbols, funny symbols. Okay, you can say okay or good, something like that. You can frame your own symbols and let the child interact. That is also going to help in extending their problem solving, working memories, setting up intention. That works on their ideation also. So that's it for today, and I hope you have gained something. If I have been little fast or there's any confusion, you can drop in the query. I'll be sharing the details also along with this video. So this is for today. So let's end 2020 with a message of understanding our kids better, especially if you are struggling a lot with their language. That's why I said I'll help you understand your child's language ability a little better. And you need to correctly evaluate yourself. What are the concerns basically that is hampering your child's language development? Why it's not happening? And maybe this, I don't know for how many minutes it has been there. So this little interaction with you has tried to open some blockages you had regarding the language development for your child. So if any confusion, any clarifications, you can simply contact me and I will be very excited and happy to answer your queries. Thank you so much and Happy New Year. Happy language building for your kids. Don't be in a hurry. They'll learn it. It will take time because language is a self-expression. Remember, it's a skill, but it's a self-expression. Thank you so much. Take care.